Hello, everyone. My name is Amatola Elin Abimbola, and yes, welcome to this special event themed interested in migrating to Australia slash Pacific, and we are honored to have our special guest. That's Pastor John Adeyemi on the platform today. We thank you for coming and being a special part of this event, and we pray that this event gives you the answers you've been hoping to have, and we pray that it's also an enlightening session for you. And so we'll be kickstarting this event with an opening prayer, which would be taken by me, and I'll also be the anchor for this program. So we'll be having a short opening prayer now. Father, we thank you for Father, we thank you for today's event. We thank you for our guest minister. We thank you for PSF Australia. We thank you for RCCG Worldwide. We thank you for our Father and the Lord Pastor Adeboye. We thank you because this program will be a blessed one and we will all be blessed due to this program. And we pray that you will give our special guest minister an auction to function, and that you, Lord, would help him to provide answers to the numerous questions that will probably be on everyone's mind. In Jesus' name, I have prayed. Amen. So this program is anchored by PSF Australia in conjunction with RCCG Lighthouse Brisbane. And this program is aimed at answering questions that might be on the mind of everyone who is interested in migrating to Australia and the Pacific region at at large. So we hope this So we hope this event would give answers to all your numerous questions. And yes, so there will be question and answer sessions after our guest minister is done with his presentation. There will be questions and answers session. And then we hope this program will be an insightful one and also be an interesting one as well. Thank you. So I would be reading a profile of our guest minister. So, Pastor John has over 8 years of professional experience in providing migration services for overseas, as well as clients within Australia. He does this passionately and offers the best possible standards on professional services. He has helped many to navigate their He has helped many to navigate their complex immigration journey, is a registered migration agent, a chartered professional engineer, a professional scrum master, and a pastor with RCCG. He is a member of Migration Institute of Australia, member Migration Alliance, member of Engineers Australia and Project Management Institute. He is an alumni of many institutions, including ANU Australia. His expertise includes all areas of migration law, including work and sponsorship visas, student visas, general skilled migration visas, business visas, family, parent, and visitor, to name a few. So this is a brief profile of our guest minister. We can see that our guest has a very well detailed profile. Like, I mean, he's well versed in anything relating to migration, coming to Australia, coming to the Pacific. And I can't wait to learn from him. I can't wait if my mind and my heart and my daughters is actually open to learn from him and to gain and to learn as many points as possible, and also answer as many questions that are in my mind. So in few minutes, I am going to welcome our guest minister into the platform so that he can start his presentation. So I would like everyone to join me in welcoming our guest minister. Sir, you have the floor now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Motola. Thanks to Pastor Seed Forum, for having me. It's a privilege to be on this platform to share with as many that are interested in migrating to Australia. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen. And good evening to you, everyone. Good morning, wherever, depending on where you are. Here in Sydney, Australia, is past 6 p.m. in the evening. Okay, permit me to share my screen. Which shall we do now? Um, so I, I believe you cannot see my screen. All right. So migration pathways to Australia. If you're interested in, migrating to Australia, there are different pathways, and that's what I'll be looking at briefly. So I'll be sharing from the second screen. Okay. All right. So a brief facts about Australia. I've jotted this down from statistics online, just for people that may want to know about Australia. In 2021, Australia is the second country with the highest average wealth all over the world. Um, Australia is the country with the highest minimum wage. That is about 14.5, uh, uh, 14.54 US dollars in the world, followed by Luxembourg with 13.67, $13.67, and Canada, $10, 33 cents, US, which is $7.25. So the country with the highest minimum wage is Australia. In terms of quality of life, Australia is the fourth best in the whole world. Uh, Quality of life with the family, friends, sports, and contact with nature. So if you're thinking about where to live, where comfortably, think about Australia. The weather is superb, it's second to none. Australia cities are one of the most livable places to live on earth. As a matter of fact, in for 6 years in a row, Melbourne, a city in Australia, uh, consecutively maintained that position as the first, the most livable place to live on earth. It was only in 2019 that it slided into second position, and now, of course, it has slided to about 10th position. That's Australia. A few facts. Moving on, Australia is a well diverse and multicultural society. Currently, the unemployment rate in Australia is 3.5%. Australia is one of the countries with lowest crime rate in the whole world. Australia is a country with many opportunities without discrimination along religion or race line. As a matter of fact, one senator from originally who migrated from Kenya became a senator in Australia. So you can become anything. Our current prime minister was raised by a single mom, and he rose to become a prime minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese. So it's a land full of opportunities, and you can become whatever you want to be. You don't have to know any godfather to be what you whatever you want to be in Australia. Australia is the world's 13th largest economy. So it's a Western world as well. So Australia was ranked second in the United Nations 2016 Human Development Index. Um, Australia has one of the best health care system in the whole world. As a matter of fact, first in the Western world. the like of the Western world, the like of the UK, US, Canada, and New Zealand. So first in the Western world. Australia population is approximately 26 million, so it's a small country. But in terms of land mass, it's almost 8 times bigger than or larger than that of uh, land mass of Nigeria, as an example. Australia is among the countries with the best educational system in the whole world, as at 2021. Those are a few facts about Australia. Now, let me jump into visa options. There are two categories of visa to Australia. We have category one, we call them temporary visas. Then category two, we call them permanent visas. Temporary in the sense that they are just temporary. They allow you to stay in Australia just for a short period of time. You can't be here permanently. That's that. Then we have a permanent visa to Australia that allow you to live in Australia indefinitely. So these are permanent visa to Australia. So temporary visas and permanent visas category. Okay, let's look at temporary visas to Australia. Few examples, and then we just pick three of them. Then we elaborate on three of them. We have student visas. If you want to study in Australia, maybe a bachelor degree, master's degree, PhD, certificates, diplomas, advanced diploma, well, you are welcome. You can come into Australia to study. And then we have graduate engineering visas as well. This visa is actually for graduates of engineering, you know, courses from countries or from institutions that are signatories to what we term Washington Accord, mainly institutions from advanced countries are signatories to Washington Accord. In Africa, I know institutions from South Australia and South Africans, South African country. Some of them are signatories to Washington Accord. And interestingly, institutions, I mean, Tanzania, one particular university there, University of Dar es Salaam, is a signatory to this Washington Accord. But unfortunately, no institution in Nigeria is a signatory to it. So in that case, anyone that finishes from Nigeria institution is not eligible for this visa, except if such fellow maybe finishes from, uh, say, the UK or elsewhere in Europe. So such person will be eligible. Then we have visitor visa to Australia. If you want to visit Australia, Australia is a tourist destination country, so a lot of tourists do visit Australia. So if you want to visit Australia's maybe a national of any country, you can come in. Australia welcomes you. Of course, you have to meet eligibility criteria for visitor visa. But of course, you can only be here temporarily, maybe for a short time, maximum 12 months, maximum. You can be here for 2 weeks, one month, 3 months, 6 months, but maximum you can only be here on a visitor visa for 12 months. Otherwise, you have to change your visa. People come in for on visitor visa, and sometimes they switch their visa to say student visas. Then we have what we call temporary skill shortage visa. These are employers sponsor visa. Uh, Australia employers have the right to employ, you know, candidates or applicants from overseas. and to work in Australia. And once they employ them, they give them this visa to come in to Australia to work. That allows them to work maybe for a period of 2 years, 4 years max, but they can renew it. Then we have what is called post-study visa, which is visa visa that people who studied in Australia for minimum of 2 years are eligible to have. Now let me get into student visa. I think this is very popular in the sense that it's, once meet you meet the criteria, you meet the requirements, you can easily come, and it can be processed once you have your confirmation of enrollment. This visa can be processed within 2 months. 2 months max, you should be fine. You should be able to get this visa and come into Australia. So the visa allows students to study in Australia. And one good thing about studying in Australia is that students are allowed to work. They can work at the moment by law. They can work for 40 hours per fortnight at the moment. But of course, because during COVID, that requirement was relaxed, so such that it now students are now able to work unlimited hours. But as from 1st of July this year, they are changing that requirement to 48 hours per fortnight instead of 40 hours per fortnight. So as from 1st of July this year, students in Australia will be able to work at least 48 hours per fortnight. Um, to get student visa, first and foremost, students need to apply to schools of their choice, and of course, meet the requirement of the school. Mainly, to meet the requirement of the school, you need to, meet what we call genuine temporary entrant requirements. They want to see you as a genuine student. And once they meet that, and you also have maybe your English test, average score, depending on the course you want to study. Some earth related courses like nursing, for instance, you need IELTS academics minimum of 7 band. So that's what is required for that course. And then for immigration purpose, generally speaking, immigration needs only 5.5, whether PT or IS, average of 5.5 IS and PT equivalent. So for you to secure an admission, you need to provide your transcript, your certificate to school, and they will assess you to see whether you meet the requirements of that admission before they give you what we call offer letter. And once you have your offer letter, then you make payment to the school and they then issue you what is called confirmation of enrollment, COE. And once you have your COE, you have your health insurance, you have financial capability evidence. In other words, if you are coming to study in some schools, we have what we call tier one schools and also tier two schools. For tier one schools, you don't need to have statement of account. As far as immigration is concerned, you don't have to have a statement of account. All you need to have is confirmation of enrollment. um, Also, you don't even need to have English tests in some schools and some tier one schools. No English test is required, no financial statement is required. So all you need is to meet the GTE requirement, have your health insurance. Health insurance is mandatory for everyone that wants to study in Australia. And then a confirmation of enrollment, you can then apply for your visa. But if you are coming to study in a tier two school, then you need to have English test, average score of 5.5, financial capability, which is for single, they've calculated it to be around $64,000. There's a way they've calculated that. You need to have living cost, Living cost is around 22,000, dollars per annum for primary applicants. Balance of your school fees and your return ticket. So for 1 year, balance of your school fees for 1 year and return ticket. So cumulatively, you'll be getting close to 60 something thousand if you are coming to a tier two school. But and then with your English, with that, you can be sure that your visa can be granted. That's for student visa. Now let's look at post-study visa. Remember how I said once you studied for 2 years in Australia, you'll be eligible for post-study visa. So, but you have to study minimum of 2 years. It doesn't matter. You can study at certificate level, diploma level, bachelor level, master's or PhD level. So, if a student studied in Australia for 2 years, or let's say minimum of 2 years at bachelor degree level, such student will be eligible for post-study 2 years post-study visa currently. 2 years by default post-study visa. Masters is 3 years, whether by coursework or by research, is 3 years. Then for PhD, by default is 4 years. It's 4 years. Then certificate 3, 4 diploma and an advanced diploma. That is another stream under post-study under graduate visa. So they call it graduate work stream. So it's for 2 years. It used to be 18 years, but 18 months, but they changed it recently to 2 years. Now, aside from that, if you now studied in places considered as regional areas, we have major regional areas and regional areas. Any place in Australia apart from Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne is considered as a regional area or regional center. We have major cities now, major regional areas, such a place like Perth, a place such as Canberra, a place such as Adelaide. All these cities and the rest are considered as regional area. A student that studies in any of these cities, apart from Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney, will be entitled to 1 year, additional 1 year. So, say for example, a son studied at master's degree for for 2 years in Adelaide, such person will be eligible for 4 years post-study visa. That's at the moment. Now, if someone has studied, say, in a regional area, which is not a major regional area, such as um, Armidale, University of New England, rural areas, remote areas, or let's just put it that way. So such person will be eligible for 2 years, additional 2 years, 2 years plus initial one, which is, for example, for masters, 3 years plus two, that's 5 years. Now, from July, now they've added another 2 years of post-study visa on top of the ones I've mentioned. If you study IT, engineering, health, teaching, agri related courses, you will have additional 2 years. So it is possible for a master's someone who comes in studying master's degree, such person will be eligible for five. Uh, um, it's possible to have 6 years of post-study visa. 6 years is a lot in Australia to get your residency. If at all you don't have hope, maybe the course you study will not lead to PR, may not lead to PR automatically, but you can still work your way through, particularly if you follow advice and you consult. Now, let me look at graduate engineering visa. I touched on it earlier on. So this visa allow others to live and work in Australia up to 18 months. They must be under 31 years. and they must have completed engineering degree from a recognized institution accredited under Washington Accord. Most most UK, all the universities in UK are under engineer accord, Washington Accord. Of course, US, Canada, those countries are under Washington Accord. But in Australia, in Africa, only universities from South Africa and a university from Tanzania, University of Dar es Salaam. These are the only universities that are under this program. Now, it has to be bachelor degree and above to be eligible for that. But the attention is 31 years. Say, for example, if you studied in the UK, you study for 1 year, engineering course for 1 year, you can come into Australia. Although the visa processing is actually long, very long, it could take up to 30 months. So now let's look at permanent visa options in Australia. There are a lot of them. Australia has over 100 visa options. So these are just summary of some of those visas. Now, permanent visas to Australia, we have permanent visas under family category. We have under family category, we have partner visa. Partner visa in if you are a spouse or a partner of an Australia citizen or Australia permanent resident, you can come in on a partner visa. It will lead to permanent residence. First, they give you temporary visa. Then, after 2 years, you'll be eligible for partner visa, a permanent part of that partner visa. Then we have what we call child child visa. So, if you are a child of an Australian, you Australia citizen or Australia permanent resident, you can apply for child visa. Or if you are a parent of an Australian, of course, you still need to meet the what we call balance of family test under parent visa, and you must have attained retirement age to be eligible for that. So it's really tricky. We need to actually delve into it to see whether that parent meets that requirement or not. Um, then we have protection visa. These are people who are seeking for asylum, whose life are threatened in their home country, and it will be at risk to return to their home country. They can explore that option. Then we have business visa. If you have plenty of money to invest in Australia, Australia welcomes that, but you must have substantial money. Minimum, you'll be looking at net income of about $800,000 for 2 years. You must have been running that business for almost 2 years and have that net income of $800,000 before you can be eligible for that. There are few visa options or visa streams under that business visa, but it's not something that is popular amongst African employer visa. I think I touched on this earlier on. If an Australian employer can employ an overseas applicant directly, and they will get PR, or they can work for them for few, maybe 3 years, and after which they will transitioned. They will be transitioned to PR. It's very possible. So that's a visa option. General scheme migration, I call it GSM. So under this, we have visa subclasses 491, 190, and 189. I will dwell on this later. Then we have distinguished talent visa or global talent visa. This is a new one. This particularly global talent visa is for people who are actually talented, who have skills in some occupations considered as critical, maybe health sector, not nurse, not general practitioners, but rather maybe people that are specialists, maybe radiologists, neurologists, all those specialists in it, they can explore that. Or people who are into IT, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, they can use that pathway, but they must be distinguished in the sense that they must be recognized internationally. They must have international recognition. They must also have nominator in Australia, who is an Australia or an Australian company who can nominate them for that particular visa. It's an option. So people in technology, agri technology, fintech, all those, they can use that. And space, advanced manufacturing, space engineering, ICT, to name a few. So these people can explore that option. But the another caveat to it is that an applicant coming via that must be able to attract or any $158,000 or $164,000. It changes yearly. So at the moment it's around 160 something, $164,000. So if you have that, it's an option. Now let's look at benefits of uh, PR. I don't know how I'm talking with time, if I'm doing well with time or not. Okay. Um, for PR, you can live in Australia indefinitely. If you have PR, Australia PR, you can work and study in Australia. You can enroll for Medicare. Medicare is Australia Medicare Australia scheme for health related care and expense. So if you just insurance that covers all Australians, in such that you can walk into public hospital and get treated. I'm talking about world class facility, world class treatment, and walk out without paying a dime for some treatment. Um, just for example, somebody was sharing with me yesterday. His wife gave birth, and he said he was just praying, that he was telling me that the best decision he took was to apply for partner visa for the wife. The wife came on a temporary visa, and while here on onshore, he applied for partner visa for the wife. So, and the wife was pregnant and about to give birth. He said before then, they went to the hospital. They said, "Oh, if you are to register you on this temporary visa for 3 nights, you'll be looking to pay around $7,000 to $8,000 if it was a natural birth." And as God will have it, the birth came through CS. So it would have been costlier than that. But now they apply for PR, partner visa, and they gave them Medicare, even though she hasn't gotten a visa yet. Once you apply for partner visa, you will be eligible for Medicare. She went in for the delivery without paying a dime. That's the benefit. You can apply for Australian citizenship after 4 years. Once you are in Australia on a PR and you live for 4 years, you'll be able to apply for citizenship after 4 years. And once you apply for citizenship, you get your passport. You can travel to over 185 countries in the world, including US, Canada, UK, and others. All you need to do in some of those countries, like UK or Canada or US, is just to apply for their ETA or Easter or whatever it's called, and within minutes it can be approved. So you don't have to, and they can give you 2 years. You can enter the country in and out 2 years without issues, or even 4 years, more than that. So that's the benefit of having Australian passport. Now you can sponsor an eligible relatives for visa. If you live in a particular, maybe regional areas of Australia, you can sponsor eligible relatives, And of course, you can, if you live in city, you can also invite your families and your family and friends, to visit you in Australia. And you can travel in and out of Australia for 5 years, provided that you have not gotten your PR. But you can live in Australia indefinitely. After, if you have not gotten your PR, then you have to apply for RRV, resident return visa. Now, let me talk on some permanent visas under general scheme migration. Skill independent visa 189 is the best, in the sense that the visa lets invited workers with skills that Australia needs to live and work permanently anywhere in Australia. Anywhere, anywhere in Australia. You don't need a sponsor or nominator. You must be invited to apply. You must be under 45 years. And then you must have a skill. You must be skill. You must have a skill which has been, or an occupation which has been assessed, and that occupation must be on the skill list, and it is point tested. In other words, you must meet a particular pass mark, which is 65 points. 65 points is a pass mark, but the journey begins at 65. That's just it. The more points you have, the better. So it is easier for people who are unsure to get more points, who do one or two things to get more points. But these days, I mean, even if you are offshore, you can still get the point. I remember in December, they issued 35,000 invitations. I've never seen that before since I've been in Australia. 35,000 just in 1 month. And of course, since then, they've not issued an invitation. My fear is that they may not issue another one till the end of financial year, because that is, I've never seen that before. So almost everyone that was ready got an invitation. Ready in the sense that has skill assessment, has competency in English minimum, and has the pass mark of 65. So if you have this, you can be lucky to get an invitation for 189. Then another visa subclass is 190. Visa 190 is a PR. The difference is that it's nominated skill visa. It's skill nominated visa. So you are nominated by state, and you have obligation to live in that state for 2 years. It's an obligation, but it allows you to actually live anywhere in Australia. People don't know this. They may think, I, once I've been nominated by this state, I have to stay in that state. No way. Nothing says that on your visa. On your visa, no condition says that. You can actually live anywhere in Australia. But one condition for nominating you, told the state, or you've mentioned it to state in written form, that you will stay with them. So just to be honest, where it's good for integrity's sake, you can then say you want to live in that particular state that is nominating you. But that there is no condition on your visa that says you have to live in any state, in the state that is nominating you. So similar thing, you must be under 45. You must have a skill occupation, which is on another list, short-term skill occupation list, and you must meet the pass mark to be eligible for that. Then this other visa is also one of the general scheme migration visa. It's called skilled work regional or provisional visa, 491, not 419, 491. So this visa basically allows people who are nominated by state or territory government to live and work in regional Australia. And regional Australia is any place apart from Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney. So Perth is a regional Australia. Canberra is a regional Australia. Hobart is a regional Australia. Darwin is a regional Australia. Adelaide is a regional Australia. Any place in Australia apart from these cities. Newcastle in New South Wales is a regional Australia. Wollongong, which is just about 45 minutes away from Sydney, some parts of Sydney, is considered as a regional area. So called, for example, Canberra is like the Abuja of Nigeria and it's considered a regional area. But the way they classify is because of the population. Like Sydney, population is about 5 point something million. Sydney City. So they are trying to encourage people to go to those other states or territories where there are no people and they are in regional areas, workers are highly in demand. They can't find them. They don't stay there. They, some people find life boring in some of those cities, but they are livable places. They have basic amenities. I mean, almost all the amenities that cities have, they have that. The shops are there. You will find things that you are supposed to, but just that. Why, if you want to live in Lagos, for example, uh, you want to, I mean, you can do everything, I mean, anything just to live in Lagos. Unlike saying it has to go and live in a kitty, life will be boring for you. That's just the truth. That's the difference between regional area and metropolitan area. So this visa allows you to live for 5 years in regional area, but how to have 3 out of 5 years, once you live in regional area of Australia, live, study, or work there, you'll be eligible for your PR. And once you get your PR, you can then decide to relocate. But in a way, some have finally called regional areas their home because life is easier in those areas. I've been to a lot of regional areas. I love traveling there. If you want to leave the stress of city, just travel to regional area. You will enjoy nature. You will enjoy everything. So after 3 years of living there, you'll be eligible for permanent visa, which is called 191. But this is also point tested. The difference is that on your own, you need to have 50 points. Then the state or the territory will give you 15 points. So in case you are struggling with points, there's a visa to think about. And at least at all is better than none. I mean, if you have this, it's better than none. Half of bread is better than none. So this is the permanent visa of that 491 visa or 494 visa. So this, once you meet the condition of living and working in regional area for 3 years, you must also earn certain amount of money. They call it threshold, income threshold for at least 3 years. At the moment, the income threshold is 53,900. You must earn that money every for each financial year for 3 years. Once you meet that, then you will be eligible for permanent resident. No other condition apart from these ones. You have to leave. But it's not as if you cannot travel to cities or maybe so-called cities. You can travel to those places, but of course, you have to live there for 3 years minimum. Now, general skill migration criteria, generally speaking, to be eligible for any of those visas I mentioned, you must have what we call skill assessment. You need to be under 45. You must meet the required pass mark points of 65. You must have competency in English. as the primary applicant, at least competency in English, which is for IS, and whether general or academics, you must score 6. Then for PT, you must score 50, 50, 50. Then you must express interest and you must be invited. These are general criteria. Then skill occupation list. You can Google this. We have 3 lists: MLTSS list, and then we have, which is medium to long term strategic skill occupation list, and then we have short term skill occupation list, and then we have regional list. So if you can find your occupation there, that's, you've ticked one box. So we have a lot of occupations. Just extract, I mean, just few occupation from the list. We have any accounting related occupation, surveyor, engineering, all fields of engineering are there. Health related occupations are there. Nurses. We have different, specializations in under nursing. We have IT occupations, social worker, all of, there are more than 600 occupations. We have carpenter, we have fashion designer, we have baker, we have chef, we have all social worker, all sort of occupations are there. But of course, each of the occupation has what we call minimum qualification required. The challenge we have with most overseas applicants is that, for example, someone who is a chef, if you don't have qualification, which is at least you must have minimum of certificate 3 in commercial cookery or something related to that. If you don't have it, it then becomes difficult. But if you have maybe like diploma, yeah, you are eligible. You can, it will fly. You only need to work for 3 years to have positive skill assessment. With positive skill assessment, I do tell people that that's if you have gotten your skill assessment, at least you've achieved 50% of the work. So the rest is for you just to meet point. Now that leads me to point system. Remember how I said, 65 points is the pass mark, and this is the way it's broken down. Broken down according to age, age 25 to 32. Between 25 and 32 gives you maximum points. That's the maximum point you can have on that age. That gives you 30 points. If you have more, if you are above 32 but below 40, then you have 25 points. If you are between 40 and 44, then you have 15 points. Remember, the age bracket, the age limit is 45. Once you must be under 45. Once you clock 45, no more. Through skill pathway. Then under qualification, the highest point you can have under PhD is for PhD. If you have PhD, you have 20 points. That's the highest point you can have. BSc and masters, they are the same. So you have same point, 15 points. Any other, whether diploma or certificate, gives you 10 points. Then for overseas work experience, maximum that you can have is for 8 years and above, which give you it gives you 15 points. For Australia work experience, if you have 1 year work experience in Australia, it gives you 5 points. 3 years gives you 10 points. And if you have 5 years or more, you get 20 points. So that's how it is. Then for professional year is for people who study accounting, IT, or engineering, and they spend 1 year internship related. So just to have hands-on experience, it's a paid experience. You have to pay to get this for 1 year. Then you get 5 points. The English test, if you score maximum in English, 8888 in IS, and PT 79, 79, 79, you have 20 points, which is possible. A lot of people do get this. If you study in Australia for 2 years, you get 5 points for just studying in Australia. Then if you study in regional areas, of Australia, you get additional 5 points. If you study STEM related, courses or course at master's by research level or PhD, you get 10 points. If you have a spouse, a partner who has an occupation that is assessed and he also has English test, which is minimum of CCCs, the partner will give you 10 points. If you have partner without skill assessment but just English, competent English, 5 points. Then if you are single, if you're not married, you have 10 points for just being single. But you have to be careful. If you're single and you got invitation, to lodge your visa, and then while your visa is being processed, say, well, let me do the first one. Let me go get married. You get married, and then you now try to include your spouse. They won't tell you not to include. But if your spouse does not have a skill assessment, that's automatic refusal. A lot of people they found themselves in this mess. They thought they are smart. They applied as single, and while the visa is being processed, they got married and added their spouse in the application, thinking that both of them will be granted visa at the end of the day. It's an automatic refusal. I got a recent case. Somebody got a refusal on the same, and he wanted me to help him file for an appeal, at the AAT, Australia Tribunal, Administrative Tribunal. So immediately I just, this is a lost case. You can't win this case. So just forget about it and start from go back to the drum board. So you mess it up. That's it. You can't win this game. It's unwinnable. The only thing is if your spouse has a skill assessment board, which is not the case, then region gives 15 points. This point scenario, imagine someone who is between, 25. That should be 25. So yeah, and fast track. My advice to anybody who wants to come into Australia, and also these requirements are similar in New Zealand as well. I'm not an expert in New Zealand immigration space, but since New Zealand is a sister country to Australia, they share the same, they use the same, approach. You must have skill assessment as well. You must have English test. You must have an occupation on their list, and of course, before you can be invited, you must be invited. It's point tested, similar to Canada as well. And I believe Canada is more popular in Africa than Australia because people don't know Australia as such. But to be honest, I know someone who got a PR in Canada and still wanted to come to Australia on a student visa. He has studied 2 words, and he found out that look, I still prefer Australia to Canada. Study in Australia, I will advise study for minimum of 2 years. Minimum. If you are coming to study in Australia, don't do 1.5. If I know they give you 1.5, top it to 2 years. You can do advanced or an extended course for 2 years. You can study for 2 years, whether minimum diploma or whatever. Then, if possible, but that was in the past. But these days, it doesn't matter whether you study in the city or you study in the regional area. Although there are advantages if you study in regional areas, you get extra points, and also you have extra years of post study. But if you are coming for a straightforward course, like nursing, for example, which is straightforward, Bachelor of Nursing is for 3 years, and once you are done, I can guarantee you anytime that you will get an invitation, regardless of where you live. I have seen that. You can study, you can live anywhere. But if you are coming to study courses that will take you longer to get PR, please, I would rather say go to regional area so that you have enough time to play with. Now, another advice I want to give is try and study courses related to occupation on the list. Don't come to study international relation. That will not relate to anything. It's not related to any course or any occupation on the list. Study a course that will lead you to PR. For example, don't come here to study MPH, Masters of Public Health, even though there are occupations that are related to public health on the list. For example, health promotion officer is related to public health. But the challenge there is that what if you don't get a job in that field after you have completed your program? Because it's not guaranteed that you will definitely get a job, after completing your program, except if you are a nurse or except if you are in health. Except, I mean, some when I say health, I mean like nurse, like doctors, like radiographers, sonographers, physiotherapists. These are people that we definitely they are specialists in a way. They will get a job no how, no matter what. But if you are coming to do MPH, which is broad, which is generic, you may not likely get a job. You may not likely get that 1 year work experience that will give you um, a skill assessment, positive skill assessment with vertices. Then you may be in trouble. You may find it difficult to get your skill assessment, and you'll now be running from one course to the other after completing your program. You start another master's. Don't waste money. Seek advice. Get the right course right from day one, and you'll be fine. So avoid courses that we require you to do at least 1 year work experience, like any occupation that vertices assesses requires skill work 1 year work experience post qualification in most cases. Yeah, that's my advice. Study courses that you do not need work experience. Basically, there are a lot of them. Engineering do not need work experience. Accounting does not need work experience. IT does need what we call professional year. If you don't have work experience, you need 1 year professional year to get your assessment done as an IT. All the nursing, do not all those health related courses, nursing, physiotherapy, radiography, they don't need work experience. As a matter of fact, they do work experience like a placement as part of their program. So once they are done, they are ready. They are ready for work. They are ready, to be employed. Social work does not need work experience. Community work, all those occupations do not need work experience component to get a positive assessment. Then, if possible, do STEM courses. The reason being that you'll be able to get extra points, then score higher point, and that is the end of the presentation. I know I've taken a lot of time, almost more than 50 minutes, so to say. Uh, yeah. All right. Thanks for your time. I believe you do have questions, and I'm ready to answer any question you may have on immigration to Australia or New Zealand. Over to you, moderator. Yeah, you're mute. I can hear you.
Much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. In fact, it was very enlightening. Even me myself, I had to jot some things down because I mean I'm new to Australia. I just came in here last year, and if yes, I'm very new. So if I like gotten some of the points you just said now, I will probably not have because I'm currently doing Masters of Public Health at the
Oh,
moment, and if I had yes. And if I had like gotten probably this program before now, maybe I won't have even like maybe I'm just probably studying nursing or something that very related. So before because so we have a lot of questions from our Facebook page and from the Facebook platform and YouTube, but we have some questions here perhaps that we would like you to answer. So it's just like few questions. So one of the questions we have here is so like this is for like students that are studying currently in Australia. So my school, I'm about to finish my studies, which means my student visa will soon like be like expire. So what should I do, or how do I plan myself to be able to stay in Australia? And like who are those qualified for like the graduate visa and the extension? Just like a brief explanation, sir.
Okay, I think I've mentioned it in the course of
Mm.
presentation that to be eligible for post-study visa, a student must study for minimum of 2 years in Australia. I- For under graduate visa, there are two streams. We course one post-study stream, work stream, post-study work stream. So anyone that studies at minimum of 2 years at bachelor degree and above, bachelor degree, masters, or PhD will be eligible for post-study work stream.
Okay.
Now
So
that's
that's what
yeah.
okay.
I'm coming. I'm not done yet. Then
Okay.
for other stream, we call it graduate work stream. If you study at for 2 years at certificate level, diploma level, or post study, postgraduate level or post whatever, you will be eligible for 2 years under graduate work stream. And then as a primary applicant, you can only get apply for this visa once
Mm.
as a primary applicant. You can only apply. You can, for example, if you some students they've studied for 2 years, they used up their post-study visa and then jump on another student visa. You will not be eligible again to apply for post-study. You can only get it once as a primary applicant, but you can be eligible for it as a secondary applicant. In other words, if you're married to someone who is applying as a primary applicant, you can be a dependent.
Mm.
Do you understand now?
Yeah.
So, for you, if you studied for 2 years in Australia, or for that individual that has that question, if you study for 2 years, I don't know the level, whether masters or bachelor. For masters, she or he will be eligible for 3 years post-study visa. 3 years. And it now depends on where he studied, he or she studied. If you study in regional area or major regional area, you have additional 1 year. If you study in regional areas, you have additional 2 years on top of 3 years, making 5. And I
Mm.
said from July, if you now study some courses, maybe IT um, course or uh, engineering or health, you will have extra 2 years. So it is possible for someone who study masters to have 7 years of post-study visa. So within that 7 years, he or she should be able to do something meaningful with it to get their to get his or her PR. If you seek advice and work with it, sometimes it may mean you get a job at all cost in your field so that you can get a positive assessment, or it may mean go back and study, do some diplomas, or do some some trade courses. Like for example, let me tell you, if someone studies um, someone who studies commercial cookery and trains as a chef, it will take almost 2 years to complete that program. Certificate 4 first, then they call something job ready program. It will take almost 2 years to complete it. That person may likely get his or her PR faster than someone who studied accounting, because accounting is highly competitive. I hope I have cleared your doubt.
Yes, sir. So this is the last question from me before we move to the questions from our Facebook and YouTube platform. So, like for someone who came in with probably a course that is not on the skilled occupation list, like let's say for me now, I am currently doing a Masters of Public Health, and I want to probably like cross over to another course like that is on the like say I want to do I'm currently doing an MPH and I want to cross over to maybe a master's of social work or maybe do a bachelor's of nursing. So how do I go about it? Is it that I have to apply for a new COE, or I have to like go through the school or apply again or apply for a new student visa? So how do I go about, or how does the person go about that?
Okay,
Please.
good question. For me, what I do advise people is, as soon as you arrive in Australia, get information. And we get information through some of these programs we hold, seminars, or seek a professional advice from registered, not just from anybody, from a registered migration agent or a migration lawyer, so that they will give you right advice right from onset. As a matter of fact, don't get that advice from, I would say, be careful of education agents, because education agents may want to just sell their courses. They don't care about, not all of them care about the end result.
Yeah.
But immigration agents are trained, or lawyers are trained to give the right advice. And as a matter of fact, if they don't give you the right advice, they can be sued.
Mm.
And we are guided by what we call code of conducts. It's a highly regulated, profession. You can't just give, because you are toiling with people's destiny here. You must get the right advice. Now, to that question, what are we doing? It depends on the level, how far the individual has gone, or you, for example. If you have, say, for example, if you have done just one semester, I would say you may need to switch your course ASAP as soon as possible. And those courses you've mentioned, they are good. Nursing is good. You can switch to nursing. And depending on your background, for example, I don't know your bachelor degree. Do you understand? If you, and let me give you an example of a medical doctor who came as a medical doctor to Australia. Their pathway is a bit longer. They have to pass AMC1 exam, sometimes get a job before, and work there for few, almost 2 years or 1 year before they can get their registration, unlimited registration. Then before they can apply for through GSM pathway. It's a longer route. So what she did was she came for MPH. She actually finished that course and then immediately switched to Bachelor of Nursing, graduate entry. And
Hmm.
she did that for 2 years.
Okay.
And guess what? That was what she used to get her invitation for PR. She did masters, MPH, she finished that one, no issue. She did not stop. She did not stop studying. Immediately, she switched. She of course applied for a new admission for masters of, graduate entry nursing, 2 years, and she completed it, and she used that to get her residency. Now, for someone who came for a master's degree, if you are to change to bachelor degree, you must apply for a new visa. That's the rule. If you came in for a master's degree, you can only study masters and above, but not masters and below. I'm not below masters on that visa. So, in other words, for you to apply for a visa, you need a COE, confirmation of enrollment. If you apply to a school and you got admission, They will you pay the fee, then they give you COE. You can use that to apply for a new visa. All right, apply for a new visa, and that will be fine with immigration. So long you can justify it that look, I found my interest in this profession, and that's the reason why I am downgrading because they know that you came in for masters. So you need to still meet the GTE. All right. But you don't if you don't want to have issue with immigration, it's a costly pathway. Finish that course first, then apply for a new course. But if you
Course.
don't, if you feel that well, I'm okay, my statement of purpose is strong enough, I can downgrade to a bachelor degree in nursing, or if you want to do social works, you don't need to downgrade. Master is masters. I mean, master of social work. All you need to do is to apply to a school, get the score, English requirement. You must meet the English requirement for social work. It's a bit high.
Mm-hmm.
Most schools
Yeah.
that we take you for MPH may not require English, but for social works, you need English. You must score 7777 or 65, 65, 65 in PT. And once you get admission, just switch. A lot of people, I know someone who came for accounting. I just advise her, look, accounting is competitive. You may be here for years, 13 years, still counting. You know, you have not got it. It may be just switch to social work. And she switched and she was given admission. And we did apply for visa. Within few days, 11 days, she got her visa when her visa was running out. So yeah, switching is the best way for MPH to me.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the answers. We really appreciate. So now we'll move to the questions from our Facebook platform and then YouTube platform. So the first question we have, it seems you have to be in Australia before you can apply. What of people outside Australia?
No, you can be in anywhere to apply for Australia visa. You don't have to. You can be in anywhere. You can be, in fact, as a matter of fact, you can get employment from overseas. Like me, I came into Australia through employment. You know, I was employed from overseas, and I came into Australia. Of course, I was given a temporary employer visa then, but it was when I got in, I knew about PR, and I had to, go through the pathway. As a matter of fact, it's even easier for people outside these days, out offshore, to get Australia PR than people onshore. That's irony, but it's really.
Thank you very much, sir. So the next question is, can one academics for these immigration categories, or the IELTS academics, it be only can only be used for educational visa?
Okay, for as far as immigration is concerned, they don't care whether it's IS academics or general. Okay, IS, that's what they need. But schools who admission, you need academics. So, but only need IS, whether general or academic.
So yeah, yes.
Mm.
So we have our next question. Please, which category of visa is suitable for a family?
Every visa is subject to eligibility. A family can come through skill migration, but first, whether to be eligible for skill migration, you meet the requirements. You must be under 45, have English test, you must, and then you must have a skill assessment. list. And if you meet all this, can add your family members to it. So you can migrate overseas on a ski visa. Tell people that migrated to Australia, family of 7 on a PR. So don't come as a family of 7 to on a student visa. That's smart. So don't do that.
Okay, so somebody's asking about what about the global talent visa route?
It's an option,
I
like
think the person is
I
asking for
mentioned during
more.
my presentation. Yeah. So you first of all need to determine whether you are eligible. Are you a talented? I mean, so let me just help you. For you to consider as a talent in your field, you must minimum of you must have PhD in a particular sector. There are a few sectors mentioned that fintech, agri-tech, medtech, advanced security, ICT, artificial intelligence, robotics. They need or specialist, maybe like neurosurgeon, neurologist, all the specialists. That, but there are other things. You must have a nominator who is an Australia in your field, or maybe an Australia employer who is willing to nominate you. In addition to that, you must be able to attract almost $164,000. So think about it whether you meet that requirement or not. But if you want to take it further, you can send your CV across. We assess you to know whether you are a candidate, you are a global talent candidate or not.
Thank you very much, sir. So coming to Australia as a fresher for social work, what's the requirement?
I guess this person is referring to student,
Yeah.
visa. Yeah, meets the requirement of student visa. Apply to school, and before you can apply to school, you must have your English test. Social works either PT 65 minimum or IELTS English 7 minimum. Then meet the GT genuine temporary entrance requirements, and then once you are given admission, you can then apply for your visa. That should be straightforward.
So I have a question. So what's the difference between a tier one university and a tier two university? Because there was a time a friend of mine was asking me that he applied for a school in Australia, but they were asking him for like
Statement of account.
the, yeah, statement of account and stuff.
Yep.
But there are some schools that like that won't require that from me, because I remember when I was applying for mine, at the time University of Newcastle were not like requesting for statement of account at that time. I guess because they were upgraded to a tier one university.
Yep.
So how do we know the difference between a tier one university and a tier two university?
So the difference basically is tier one universities have what we call CS, streamlined visa processing. They do the checking by themselves, and sometimes it's very hard. A school can lose. A school can be downgraded to. All right. So the difference is that's what we call streamlined visa processing. They don't, with immigration, you don't have to with a tier one school. You don't provide English test. I think that's fantastic. Immigration without needing English account. I know statement of account A lot of people want to, study in Australia, but the issue of statement of account is, but for tier two school, they provide statement of account. You need to provide, and statement of account can be huge. You may be required to provide dollars as proof of fund. That's close to maybe 20 million and above. One school, you don't need to do that. So they just meet for tier one schools, they are very expensive. Unlike in some tier two schools with $6,000 or $5,000, but in some tier $15,000 and above.
Thank you very much, sir. So somebody is asking how they can get in touch with you for an on one-on-one relocation guidance, like if there's a way they can get to chat with you after this event. And then this another person is asking, I studied English and want to come for a master's degree in applied linguistics. Can I get PR with it?
Guidance, of course, with the permission from, why not, to me via my WhatsApp. Uh, if you reach out to me, provide your CV, because your CV tells me about you. So in your CV, I want to see your age, date of birth. I want to see your qualifications. I want to see your work experience. Under 2 minutes, I will assess you whether you are eligible. And if you're not eligible for skill visa, then I will advise you for the option. And if in studying option, so I'll give you that guidance. But if I know that you are eligible, a guidance holistically, put it down in a paper in form of a letter of advice. That way you have to pay for it. Do you understand? So you have to pay, and that whatever I'm providing you will serve as a template for you to run with. I do that because to sieve people that are serious from people that are just making inquiry for inquiry's sake. If you're serious, I know you'll be committed to it. And that's what I do. Now, to the person saying coming for a master's degree in applied linguistic TESOL, to be honest, TESOL means teaching of English to student of other language or so. I think that's it. So it's an occupation. As a matter of fact, it's one of the occupations that will give you extra 2 years. Any teaching occupation is hot cake in Australia. Australia needs teachers like anything. Teachers are highly in demand. But I would rather say, if this person can study secondary school teaching, I would prefer it to TESOL. Because TESOL is narrow. But teaching, I mean, masters of teaching, secondary school teaching, once you are done with your studies, you are, in terms of job, you will easily get a job. Teachers are highly in demand, and teachers in Australia are well paid. That's it. Apart from that, the pathway is sure for anyone who studies teaching here. But then the requirement for teaching, to become a teacher here, you need to meet the requirement. For example, let me give you this. To get an assessment as a teacher, you must score 8 in IS academics only, 8 in speaking, 8 in listening, 7 in writing, and 7 in reading. So if you are able to meet this and also able to pass the exam after your study, then you should be fine to study teaching. I would rather say come for teaching rather than TESOL. It's two
Thank you.
years. Mm.
Thank you very much, sir. So I would, so we would like to, if we can probably get your official email address so that we can put it on the screen for people who have further questions so that they can send you an email and then get to you for more guidance or to commit to Australia. So for me, like I just like to share my experience. Australia is like a beautiful place. I've been here for like a year, and like you said, Australia is a city of nature. You connect with nature. There's a lot of beach. You see, in fact, and I'm sure you people are like saying there's snakes everywhere. I've been here for like a year. I've not seen a snake. So you guys should. I've not seen snake. I've not seen any crocodile. I've not seen anything. So Australia is a beautiful place to be. You should consider coming here, and for everyone that wants to come here, I wish you all the best. I wish you good luck in your application, in your yes. And we want to thank Pastor John Adeyemi. Thank you so much. In fact, me that I'm like the anchor, I learned in fact my daughter is already filled with lots of points that I would go and ruminate on and start working on. So we would we're rounding up now. So we have the email address of Pastor John Adeyemi. So for everyone that wants to see Pastor Adeyemi for a one-on-one guidance on relocation for anything relating to Australia, coming to Australia, studying in Australia, I think even me myself will still send an email to you, sir. so, so yes. So we really want to thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity for coming to teach us and enlighten us about migrating to Australia, telling us some of the things we need to know. And we want to thank everyone that joined this program. We won't have a program without. So we want to thank everyone for coming. We want to thank Lighthouse Brisbane for this opportunity. We want to thank PSF Australia for this opportunity. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you for giving us this opportunity to learn more about migrating to Australia. We want to thank RCCG Worldwide for this opportunity as well. I want to thank our Father in the Lord, Pastor E. Adeboye, for having this, for creating a big community like RCCG. Because without RCCG PSF Australia, we won't have this program. So we would like to um close this program with a closing prayer, which will be taken by me, your anchor. So we would like thank you, Jesus, for this event. We thank you for the things we've learned. Thank you for our guest minister for his enlightening answers to some of the questions in our mind. And we pray that you, Lord, will help us as we make decisions about coming to Australia, about things we want to do. And we pray that you would continue to help RCCG, PSF Australia, RCCG Lighthouse Brisbane, and RCCG Worldwide in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much. We look forward to stay tuned for more programs coming from PSF Australia, from RCG PSF Australia. Definitely we would have more events coming up relating to anything relating to Australia. We look forward to also having you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really, really appreciate. Thank you so much. See you. My name remains Omotola Ellen Abimbola, and I'll be your anchor for this program. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. I wish you best of luck in coming to Australia. I can't wait